Hello, Untitled to all the class 7 students. In our previous classes, we discussed about photosynthesis and iodine test. Dinge ging azu class na long azu khar ko la jang la wi na plants digi autotrophs res. Plants so khala so tu go res lai ba. Ani plants ki khala khande so go re carbon dioxide, water ingi nyam do ya khande tom gore in the presence of sunlight with the help of chlorophyll it will produce food called carbohydrates. And carbohydrates tige sama khari ki form nanglo sukuna na nyagre starch ki form nanglo la ro ani starch yume ding azu khandes test chetu re la wi na through iodine test, right? So we have discussed about all those things. Now in this particular chapter we will discuss about parasitic and insectivorous plants, right? Insectivorous plant lana khari re, parasites lana khari re di jangurda. Okay, so chapter number 1, nutrition in plants. This is the part 4 or the fourth class. Ta ngazu gil hama khashe jor photosynthesis nanglo ngazu khar laimbe. Photosynthesis it's performed by green leaves. Loma nanglo lo chlorophyll yore, chlorophyll gi loma chunda khar sogore jangu sogore slaima. Ani chlorophyll gi khar chigore, it helps in capturing the energy from sunlight and it helps in preparing food. It helps the plant in preparing food. Ta nga zu yang khar la chog la wi ba na, we also see plants which does not have green colored leaves. For example, over here, iran zu garden de zu na thong yu gre loma ma wo che gyo do de ni loma sunda ya se wo che gyo de do. Dige photosynthesis chigi yor ve la na chigo orta, even though they don't look green, right? Konzu green yo mare te ine konzu photosynthesis chigi yor ve la na, they do perform photosynthesis. Ta konzu sunda loga thong go yumzen khare la wi ba na, they contain large amount of other pigments like red pigments, right? Brown pigments. Pigment shimba mangta ne sunda shimba dige mangta we gengi ani green color di thong thu yomar, green color di yango barche thu gomar, right? So large amount of other pigments, they mask the green color of chlorophyll, therefore they appear red, brown, right, magenta, etc. Okay, so however, they do contain chlorophyll and they do perform photosynthesis. Right, photosynthesis can take place in non-green leaves as well. Khonzuge photosynthesis chigi orta. Ro, jangu yomarde ne khonzu photosynthesis chigi yoreslar. Seu chungso. Na ani shimbaji khari yore lawu imbena algae. Algae also do photosynthesis. Algae they do have chlorophyll. The algae lana khari. What is algae? The algae lane re algae lawu imbena. So pronunciation manda doa. So algae la di ngazu kharna yor lawu imbena kisi so chunju inde yobi imbena. Ro kiju inde chunju inde yobi imbena. Ani namshi tsau che ani dibula ani organic materials mangu yobi imbena. What will happen after some days? Some green things start growing on the upper surface of the water, right? Chugi kangla hani jangu ni ki do jangu nyang nyang la ko chang wi ba na ko khar do nyare nyere do slimy chik do sto di ya khare, they are nothing but they are all organisms called as algae. Ro algae le dre akiran zu kesi inde shala dinde gala chukhil digi yo wi ba na nima khashe jelo ko jangu do chani phagele jeda shurgu da, it becomes slippery, right? If you have a cemented surface, right, and if it holds puddle of water, after some days some green stuffs grow over there, it becomes very slippery, right? So the green the kharre la wi na, that green thing is nothing but the organisms called algae. And algae, they are green because they contain chlorophyll. Chlorophyll. So that means they can also perform photosynthesis and they can also prepare their own food. Algae den zogi khras khalas yetu worta ngazu tishin chikbu marda. Apart from big plants that we can see, right, we also have got these green organisms, right, small organisms called as algae. And plants, apart from carbohydrates, photosynthesis ke end product nge kharelas carbohydrate na oxygen rela so plant they can also produce proteins and fats apart from carbohydrates. Carbohydrates ta nyamdo la plant ye sheba kharge swegor la wimba na, proteins ta fats ke swegor nga zu khala nang lo protein gore la yo ani shakzi da ha ho nga zu fats, right? So plants they also produce proteins and fats. How do they do that? Plants first they produce carbohydrates through photosynthesis. Thangbo khar chigre plant ki carbohydrate produce chigre ani carbohydrate di khar che ju pheju chigre la wimba na, proteins ta fats soya la pheju chigre. In a proteins na fats nanglo la mix ki protein nanglo la it contains an element called nitrogen. Proteins nanglo la element ya mane chemical khar sangu gor la na nitrogen sangu gor. Ani plants la nitrogen di khane rag re la na ngazu lungbu ne rag marda. Plant nitrogen inji miji khane rag gor soil ne ya rag gor. Atmosphere nanglo la nitrogen yore molecular nitrogen yore, but that molecular nitrogen present in the air, it is useless for the plant. Sishingi directly nitrogen lung nalo yoyo di pechi chetu mare. So first the nitrogen they need to be fixed into the soil, right? This suig rokba chigore la wimba na soil nanglo yoyo gi bacteria yakpun de yor. Soil nanglo yoyo bacteria dinzo gi kharchigore certain bacteria in the soil, they help convert gaseous nitrogen of the atmosphere into usable nitrogen into the soil, and that usable nitrogen is used by the plants, right? So nitrogen fix chela sui roba chido bacteria yakbon yor la soil nanglo la tinga zo jela yang goni ligirta so. And then apart from that, you also know that farmers they add fertilizers to the soil. Konzo shinga dabdu zambala shinga dige shinga dabdu zambala ani lu yegdo fertilizer yegdo manure yegdo. Then so khajin yegor. Why do they add manure? Why do they add fertilizers? Fertilizer khajin add chigor zishinla in order to enrich the soil with nitrogen. Plant thila nitrogen te chedu ani fertilizer lugor. So plants they produce proteins and fats, and for production of proteins plants they need nitrogen, right? And nitrogen it is obtained from the soil. And in nature there are certain bacteria which help in the fixation of atmospheric nitrogen for the plants. Okay, diche tangazu other modes of nutrition ga tayanda. So plants, so far we have seen that plants are autotrophs. Plants lana kharre so khala thungi gi organism re larwa sojaj re larwa. Now what if I have got two questions over here? What if plants they do not have chlorophyll? What if plants lack chlorophyll? Lack la imbana mewala gorda. What if plants they do not have chlorophyll? What will happen then? Can plant perform photosynthesis? Well, photosynthesis cheture chlorophyll mewa imbana. And what if plants they grow in a soil which is deficient in nitrogen, right? Kisi plant den mangbo chirwa ani sa nanglo la nitrogen megyo de gang la ke yobi imbana. And what will happen? The plant the nitrogen mara imbana ni plant diabu grow chiturwe. So these are two questions you have to think about. What if plants they lack chlorophyll, and what if plants they grow in soil deficient in nitrogen? Deficient la imbana nyung thawa. Deficient la na nyung thawa la gorda. Nitrogen nyung tha yogi sana la ke yobi mena ni kharchigres. So let us see. What if plant they lack chlorophyll? Kisi tishin chigla chlorophyll mewa imbana ko jangu marta. Now what will happen to that particular plant? Right now, if a plant it does not have chlorophyll, it cannot perform photosynthesis. Didang azo ha hurwa. Kisi plant la chlorophyll mewa imbaina, and it cannot perform photosynthesis. Plant la chlorophyll mena photosynthesis chetu mares. Then what will happen? They have to obtain food from other plants. Food dikhane ragu other organism, other plant ne ragu. So they become heterotrophs. Now that plant which does not have chlorophyll, they are no longer autotrophs, they become heterotrophs. Heterotrophs lana organism shembala tengo. Animals are heterotrophs. Right? We cannot produce our own food. Since some plants they don't have chlorophyll, they cannot produce their own food, they cannot perform photosynthesis, so they become heterotrophs. The example chikte lawi, but you can give the example of Amarbel. Amarbel lana ngazuki scientific meaning kharta share Cuscuta. It's the temba nya Cuscuta. So Cuscuta or the common name is Amarbel. Amarbel like plant di jangu yomar ko sew roger. Ko nanglo chlorophyll yomar. Chlorophyll medu zambala Amarbel plant di Cuscuta photosynthesis chetu gomar. Now Amarbel kharche gore sishin shimbaga na tem gore. And therefore it is a parasite. Danga parasite la sik the tishe ya. What do we mean by parasite? Okay, so here we have a picture of a tree. Tree digal kharke she sew do mangu peke do. This sew mangu kejo di. Sew mangu kejo dige sama khare la wimbena Cuscuta Amarbel la edre. So on this particular tree you can see these yellow things growing over here. These yellow things are Cuscuta plant or Amarbel plant. Amarbel plant de khachi gore ko dini ya jarni sishingal ya tida ten ro ya. Mazu nam tida thi do thakba nang shi tida thi do de thong do. So it climbs up to the tree, up on the tree, and they take ready-made food from the tree. It shingdong di gang ne shingdong di chu sama khachi gore Amarbel khorang gi jib gore ya. Thamni ya jib do gore. Ani sishin di la di shingdong di la kharchi gire kola khala di chu dige sama nyung thabe kengi ngamjish mado ani koe shidure. The tree will die ultimately, right? So since this particular plant Amarbel la di ani khorangi zasa gi tree dila nyo ge yoba songza ro ani Amarbel la di khare it is a parasite. Parasite la na khalo ore sokcha shimba ji la tengo wa khangshi la sokcha shimba dila nyo ge yoba imba na. And then that particular organism is called as a parasite. Since Amarbel, it harms the plant, the host plant on which it climbs. Therefore, Amarbel is a parasite. Parasite lana sulu host la For example, if you go to a friend's place, friend di kirang host bachasha, friend di kirang la khala te chigorda, ine kirang friend la pha na, then you are a parasite. So parasite la sik dikhar do negative rido so diche we have parasite example kharre Cuscuta. If I ask you give one example of a parasitic plant la na example kharte ore Cuscuta lan example te or all right, now you have to think one particular question: are we and other animals also parasites on the plants? Ta kisi Cuscuta la di ko parasite dim by na shingdo jigal zan shingdo de nyu ki do shingdo de se shek do so tinde jila nga ju ki parasite lagi yo bim ba na nganzu peze sagore labu sagore ro chi shin da ma da sagoro ani semje shin ba phaju da ne ju ke khachi gor chi shin da ma da sagoro so nganzu da phaju da dige sama khare plant ki parasite revelan ke je ti gor are we parasites or not, right? So the simple answer is we cannot call ourselves as parasite. We are predators, predator like figure. Ta gi shawa sawi mena ta parasite re lag marwa nganzu khala re ta di predator re lag rwa so nganzu ge khachi gore chishin di sagorwa so we are also predator, we are not parasites, right? Parasites lawa imba na kiranzu shigla tane digre ki kan kipshi ge do kipshi din zo ge kharre parasites re so azu chogo nanglo lo bu inde yore lagdo bu ne ge gor lagdo di bu den zo ge khare parasites re so host la ne ge ngech mi de host kan la teni ne host la ne ge nge de la khala ore parasites la or. Is it clear? All right, so let's move to the other question. Ta kisi plant kesa gi sa nanglo la nitrogen takta me wi pa na nitrogen nyung thagi yo wi pa na. Now what will happen? The plant dila nitrogen yung thadu jambala nitrogen chig ra go they have to get nitrogen from some other source, right? Since the plant they are growing on a soil, the soil does not contain enough or sufficient nitrogen. The plant has to obtain nitrogen from some other source. The other source the khane lingi rila wi na plant they eat animals tishingi simjen sanyen dear. Example khariyor law imbai na pitcher plant. You must have heard about this particular plant. Pitcher plant na dire. Pitcher lago gumze kharla na khoi gidi sopta shto. Pitcher na shiyor. Pitcher la na ngazu dinde lawor da mag do shto. Chang luye ro jik minde. Ngazu yunjo phiya da yamena chang luye gaji do shto. Ne ch minde. Dila ngazu kharla gre pitcher lagre. So pitcher plant la ming pitcher plant khajin thobrila na khoi gu sopta dinde do di kharta dingi chikba chikba do do. So pitcher plant la di kharchi gore la bimbana ko nitrogen yung thawa song za khu bu sagor bu khande sagre isi bu jille wa imbai na ko dibula ma sagro ti pitcher do dina ma sagro pitcher din nanglo la khari they have got digestive juice ani bu di khachi re digestion is bu di ma se sher ani bu di so bu di shur ani bu di so bu nanglo yo nitrogen dige sama an khachi re sishin dige ya jib sher yo chung so ani bu di ma thön tu mar da ma chik sa sa so na bu di ma thön be khawor. Why? Because they have got downward facing hairs inside the pitcher. Ani sheba example kharjene digrelana you can give the example of Venus flytrap. Venus flytrap they are also insect or insect eating plants, right? Venus flytrap la dikhachi do deda de video de na thongu do you can see tanga saswa, right? And then there are other plants which also eats insects ro drosera so ta dige chama la khalegre these insect eating plants, right? Pitcher plant, Venus flytrap dige chama khaji busagdo simje bulana simje ro busagdo. So busange gi plant dige langa zo khar lagre la mena they are called as insectivorous plants. So insect eating plants like pitcher plant and Venus flytrap, they are called as insectivorous plants. So there's a bukhachin sagor so why do they eat insects? Because they grow in a soil which lacks enough nitrogen. Nitrogen mewa sonza roani nitrogen raya che dukhachi gore busagor. So with this we have come to the end of this particular video. We will discuss about some other modes of nutrition or some other interactions between organisms in the next video. Okay, thank you.